So what's up, Ashley? How you doing today? You are what, a public speaker, serial entrepreneur, right?
Yes, I am. Thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here. Really appreciate it.
For sure. So to give everyone some context, can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am 23 and from the Boston area, and I originally got into entrepreneurship super unintentionally back when I was in high school, actually. And after noticing that a lot of my friends and I were struggling with body image and self-esteem and mental health, I started giving workshops to middle school and high school age girls focusing on all those topics. And eventually that turned into an organization called Move. And for the past 8 years, I've been giving workshops and summer programs to teenage girls on all those issues. So that was how I got super accidentally into entrepreneurship. And now, currently, I run a consulting company called Visionaria, where we're kind of like your one-stop shop for all things small business. So we do content creation for social media. We do SEO, website design, blog writing, PR, pretty much anything that a solopreneur or small business owner needs, we can take care of it through Visionaria.
So you said you got into entrepreneurship by accident. So you kind of started a small movement and then it just scaled up somehow.
Exactly. So the way that we did it was we started off by giving free workshops. And
Okay.
originally, not a lot of people would come, but the ones that did come really saw the value in it. And we were putting on really great workshops. So eventually, we were able to give summer programs because we had built enough of a following 3 years in where we were able to do something larger and people would still come.
I think that's a good starting point to talk about because I feel a lot of entrepreneurs, or even content creators, when they make their first video, they get like 3 views and they get really disappointed and upset because what the heck, 5 views, or maybe they get like they set up an e-commerce shop and they get one buyer and they spent like maybe $50 on Facebook ads and then they quit altogether. But your mindset was like, hey, we have a couple people here. But then over time, it scaled to an actual movement. And you kind of learned that from such an early age.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like when I first started, really, we had very few people at the first couple workshops. And like one of them was my sister, even, And
Hmm.
so it takes time to build things. I think, especially if you're trying to build a community, it's going to take a while because you have to really build trust within the people of that community. And you also have to be providing so much value. So, yeah, I totally agree. I also think that like when you are starting something, it's really important to be realistic with the fact that your starting point is just a starting point, and from there you can only, continue to build it. And also like if you're, only getting a few people um listening or buying or whatever it is, but you haven't really done a creative job brainstorming and trying to like troubleshoot a bunch of different things. Um, that's kind of tough. I don't know. Like entrepreneurship is all about trying those like creative different things to get feedback.
Yeah, they say like the best businesses are the ones that entrepreneurs make that kind of scratch their own itch or building things around their passion, right? Instead of just having a business that
Yes.
has a good cash flow. So you kind of built something that you felt strongly about.
Yeah, exactly. I think that like when entrepreneurs are starting out, it's always really good to look for what you need because
Hmm.
you are like the best possible target ideal client you could have, right? So when I created Move back in 2013, I wasn't looking to start a business. I was just looking to fill a need and to create, open, honest conversations and community, which was something that I was really missing. And I felt like a lot of teenage girls were probably missing. With Visionaria, I realized that there was a gap and that a lot of solopreneurs needed support, but they didn't need to hire someone full time. They just needed someone on an as needed basis. So with that, I created Visionaria.
I see. Wait, but for Move, once you're young, you don't really think about money like that. But as you get older, you have more responsibilities, bills, or you want to spend things that you want to spend on, and
Yeah.
now like money comes into account, right? At what point you do decide, okay, like this is an actual business, and this is an actual
Huh.
business. A way a business survives is through cash flow. So did you kind of create Visionary after that fact, or did you kind of put in systems into Move to kind of make an actual cash flow around your business?
I love that question because I think that's something that I've thought so much about. And when I first started doing Move, you're right, it wasn't about the money. It was all about creating an impact. And then it was nice to be valued for our work at, our summer program,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just never, never, never about the money. Whereas now with Visionaria, something that I realized a year ago before I started Visionaria was I realized that if I wanted to create impact that was sustainable, I needed to be making money.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I wasn't making money, then I couldn't survive off of it, right? And so it would essentially just, whatever I was doing that was making an impact would fail because I wouldn't be able to continue it because I wouldn't be making enough money. So I think that like with Visionaria, I really realized that I have just had to like create sustainable practices and
Mm-hmm.
systems so that way I'm actually making money and that way I'm actually able to continue doing with what I'm doing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, and the cool thing, let me know if I'm wrong, but I think both of your businesses, they're complements of each other. So you can kind of
Yeah.
take the audience from Move to Visionaria, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think like with Visionaria, it's actually interesting. I think I was expecting to take more people, but actually so many of my clients are 50 or 60 years old.
Hmm.
So it's been really, really interesting working with clients and people that I wasn't expecting and haven't really worked with before.
I think that's interesting in terms of business because, as you continue along your journey in your business, a lot of things can change. For example, I think one of the best examples I can always think about is Amazon. They started off
Tell
selling
me.
books
Yeah.
and now they're literally doing everything, selling data. They have their own streaming platforms. And I'm pretty sure Jeff Bezos did not imagine that when he first sold his first couple of books. So I think a lot of things can change as you go along. But just to provide more context on Visionaria. So you say you help entrepreneurs kind of like behind the scenes. So if they're not too familiar, I mean, every entrepreneur is extremely, extremely busy and, they can't do all the mundane and tedious tasks. So you kind of help manage that workflow so they can be more efficient throughout their day, right?
Exactly. You just
Okay.
nailed my elevator pitch. Great
Huh.
work.
So what exactly, okay, as an entrepreneur, or especially if you're going to build content across all your social media platforms, do you handle each and every single platform, write blogs for them, make sure they're
Yeah.
right? Like, what is it exactly that you help them with?
Totally. That's such a good question, and I appreciate that. So there's a couple main things that we do. First thing is website design. Second thing is SEO. We help, clients get organic traffic to their websites through really strong SEO, both behind the scenes of the website and also through blog post writing
Mm-hmm.
with really content-rich SEO words. We also will create content creation based on a strategy call that we have with all of our clients. So, we'll determine together, do we want to be posting on LinkedIn or just Instagram or Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, email marketing, where are we actually going to be targeting? So a lot of the times we'll be writing copy and coming up with graphics. Then we do media relations. So that's coming up with, how do we want to establish you as a thought leader? How do we want to establish, your brand and where do we want to post about it? So it's a lot of different areas that we're really tackling, but I would say in a quick sentence, it's website design, SEO, PR/media relations, as well as content creation and blog writing. So
Wait, but
trying to be the one-stop shop.
are
Yeah.
you tackling like their personal brand? So if an entrepreneur is running a business, are you kind of helping them with their personal brand or their actual business or both?
Mm. It could be both. Yeah. We work with a lot of people who are just working on their personal brand. And then we work
Mm-hmm.
with like for-profit businesses.
Okay.
So
Because I was
yeah.
gonna
Does that
say
answer
like,
your question?
yeah,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of business owners, not everyone, say on Instagram you put founder, you kind of like give yourself a shout out saying that you're the founder, and that kind of increases your personal brand, right? Not everyone likes that, or not everyone knows how to build a personal brand because they're so busy working on their business. It's really hard to just work on your personal brand and then work on your business,
Oh
because
my gosh.
you have two
Yeah.
different social media platforms. And to be honest, I tried that, and like it was just so overwhelming. I'd just rather focus on one thing only.
Oh my gosh. I completely agree with you. I think about that a lot because I I run like a successful business, like
Hmm.
Visionaria is doing really well, but my personal branding could be just like a million times stronger. You know, if I was
Yeah.
like, if I had an hour every day to devote to like TikTok or
Mm.
whatever, it would just make such a difference. But yeah, it's way too much work to manage both entirely on your own. It's just like, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, just doing, unless you're like superhuman, you can do both. But I think eventually, once you start establishing one thing, you can still leverage that to promote another business or your personal brand organically, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it'll
Mhm.
eventually come.
Yeah, I think like the two, my business and my personal brand, kind of trickle into each other for sure, but it's still definitely challenging to be on top of both.
Hmm. And so right now, so you don't really focus on your personal brand, it's mainly about Visionaria.
Yeah, so like I would say like I'm really devoted to the behind the scenes of Visionaria. Somebody
Hmm.
else actually on my team manages the Instagram, but I would say that like I'm pretty devoted to, you know, the actual like behind the scenes operations of the business. And because I'm so focused on that, I'm not focused on my external personal brand. I think I do like an okay job, but I think if I like really committed to it and spent like an hour or two a day, I think I could have a way stronger personal brand, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Me personally, like, I feel kind of skeptical when people start too many businesses at once. And this is just based off my experience because
Totally.
it never worked out.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so how do you kind of allocate your time between like both businesses and your personal brand and whatnot?
That's a really good question. So I actually am no longer doing Move
Okay.
because COVID happened, and so we weren't really able to run our summer program this year. And then also we were just kind of at a point where we were starting to outgrow it. So
Mm,
yeah, I'm no longer running Move, and instead I'm full time working on Visionaria on like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, typical full time schedule.
you haven't thought of a way to maybe integrate both of them at the same time somehow?
I have, but I was just really ready to kind of like move on from Move, I
Yeah.
think.
You
Whereas
said it's seven
Visionaria
years,
feels like,
right?
yeah, 8 years. It
Eight
was a
years?
long time. So I definitely am feeling like I want to be really present with Visionaria and I don't want to be balancing too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, I also want to like have fun and have friendships and like focus on other things as well. So yeah.
So do you think, okay, here's a tricky question. So do you think COVID accelerated that process of you moving on to Visionaria? Like, was it
Mm,
bound to happen and just COVID just, just made it clear?
well, yeah, yeah. So I was bound to start Visionaria, but it was
Okay.
actually because I lost my job working for a business coach,
Mm,
which is how I got the idea for Visionaria. She didn't have a need to hire me or anyone full time or the money. And when she had to let me go, I realized, like, oh, wow, okay. Uh, there is a real need for people like the woman who had hired me, but
mm-hmm.
they just don't have the capacity or the need to hire someone full time. So,
Okay.
so that was really what got me going. But
Okay.
yeah, it's a good question.
And how do you kind of find your clients? If you have an entrepreneur and you don't know if he or she is busy and you don't want to help them, build their personal brand, save them a lot more time throughout the day. How do you kind of pitch your services? Like, what do you use to get clients?
Yeah. So basically, what I do is I always focus on relationship building
Mm-hmm.
and really just try to emphasize that. So I'm part of a bunch of different groups on Facebook and like Slack channels and just groups and memberships that I pay to be in that have really strong potential candidates or leads for who I think would be a good fit for Visionaria. So what I do is I'll actually do kind of intensive research on these people in the groups. And if they seem like a really good fit for Visionaria, I'll reach out to them and I'll say, hey, you know, I love what you're doing. Here's why I love it. I'd love to get to know you better. Would you mind hopping on a call with me? And then I also asked them if they'd be interested if we could actually feature them on our Instagram, because I love what they're doing so much. So I'm really only reaching out to people that I feel a genuine relationship with and I feel really excited to be in touch with. And then from there, I have the conversation, and yeah.
So it's more of
Also,
an organic reach. So you kind of reach out to them, you talk to them, instead of like maybe throwing out an ad and trying to get,
exactly.
random.
We don't do any paid advertising.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think
So it's
eventually if you start to build those relationships, you get a lot of word of mouth and referrals, right?
That's exactly it. Almost all of my clients are either word of mouth or referrals. And especially when I first started it, I had like 10 clients pretty quickly just because I posted about it on social media and people in my network saw what I was doing and needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, like say, I'm an entrepreneur and I go, hey, Ashley, you kind of reach out to me and you pitch your services. What's kind of the return on investment exactly? Like, are you going to show them, hey, you're going to get X amount of followers, you're going to get a lot more engagement across maybe your blog? How do you kind of show those metrics of like, hey, this is going to help you out in the long run for your personal brand or business?
Yeah, so I actually think that metrics is definitely an area that I could be improving upon, because
Mm-hmm.
right now, what we're really giving is less about the metrics and more about like the someone else will take it off your plate so that way you don't have to
Okay.
feel so overwhelmed. Um, and yeah, we're really good at coming up with like we're really good at getting consistent tasks done that really
Mm-hmm.
need to get done.
That makes sense because it's really an essential feature or thing for entrepreneurs or for anyone trying to build a brand. If you don't have a social media or if you don't have a blog post,
Exactly.
because I think a lot of people say, hey, um, social media is killing it. You don't need, like, they say blogs are dead, but in reality, if you are too reliant on social media, for example, say TikTok was gone and everyone lost their followers, they would have been like, extremely upset. So you can't be too reliant on the platform because either the organic reach would go down or it can just be wiped out. However, if you build your own email list, your own assets, such as your email list or your website, and you have a lot of monthly views on your website, then that's an asset that's never going to be taken away from you unless the internet goes down, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a really good point. It's been so awesome and so wonderful working on Vision Area. It's just really different than what I've done before. And yeah, I totally agree with that.
Wait, so how does it feel? So you said you work with like older, like much older
It's
entrepreneurs,
so interesting.
and now they're listening to a young entrepreneur like yourself. Like, how does that kind of feel, like that dynamic?
I love it. I'm very surprised. I wasn't expecting to, but I really enjoy it. And, everyone that I work with, I do have a good relationship with. And so that's just really, really helpful. I'm not working with older people who don't believe in me or my expertise. I'm working with older people who are really excited by what I can offer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a really great networking platform called Lunch Club. Are you a part of it, or have you heard of it before?
I think I've heard about it. I think.
You should totally sign up for it. It's basically like a platform that uses artificial intelligence to pair you up with people it thinks that you should network with. And I have met a lot of my clients on Lunch Club. And the reason why I like it so much is because if I was to go to an in-person networking event, I'd probably be with all the other 23-year-olds, just like
Mm-hmm.
talking to them. I probably wouldn't approach the 55-year-old woman. And one of the really cool things about Lunch Club is that it'll frequently pair me up with these 55-year-old women. And turns out we have so much in common, and they're really ideal client fits for me.
Actually, that reminds me. I think there was an other app. I don't know if it was that one or a different one, but it was like the Tinder of like businessmen or businesswomen.
That's
And
so funny.
yeah, yeah. So you kind of write like what you do. I mean, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but if you're adventurous and whatnot in that respect in business, you kind of put out your profile and you can match with people, have a coffee date, not a date, but have coffee or call them.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like a Tinder, but for a LinkedIn Tinder, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. It's an amazing platform. I'm always so impressed with how effective the artificial intelligence is. I actually got paired up with one of my friend's husband, which was really funny to do a call with him.
Hmm.
And another time I got paired up with someone who was hiring a role that my friend was looking for. And now she has a job because of this guy that I met at Lunch Club who was hiring a position. So
So you would
it's pretty
recommend
amazing.
anyone to download it? To use it?
Everyone. I love Lunch Club. I seriously recommend it. Yeah, absolutely.
So how many times, or like say a month or two, that you meet new people and then you kind of add them to your team, like that you work with them for your business?
Yeah. So I do a lunch club almost every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been probably since March because I really enjoy it so much. And I would say a couple of them have become clients. But more than anything, I've just had really interesting conversations, and I've also been connected to other potential clients. So yeah, I really, really recommend it.
Mm-hmm. So what's something that, so you said you have a team around you, and I feel once you start a business, you kind of have to know everything. And then once you kind of hire a team, you delegate those tasks that you're not as good at to those team members. And then you focus on your strong points. So for example, your strong point can be literally just
Exactly.
SEO or meeting new people and getting more clients, right? So what do you think your strong point is for your business?
That's a good question. I am definitely good at sales. It has totally shocked me, but I am really good at building relationships and selling Visionaria. I never would have thought of myself as someone who's good at sales, but yeah, it's definitely a strong suit. I am also really good at copywriting and website design. That's something that I really, really enjoy doing, because I know what makes for a very purposeful, strong website. And so that's definitely a strength of mine.
Hmm. When I think of a salesman or saleswoman, I just think, like, hey, like buy this. But from
Yeah,
like talking to you, like you literally develop a long form strategy where you meet someone, you have some rapport, and then you pitch them.
exactly.
I don't really see that as sales. It's kind of like long term marketing that leads up to a potential sell. I don't know if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense because it's not salesy. It's like
No,
it's
it's
very
branding kind
organic.
of.
It feels,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels very good. And the other thing is like I don't pitch to anyone unless I think that they're a good fit. And by that point, it's not even really pitching. It's more like, hey, here's what I think I could offer. Let's facilitate the next step together if both of us are on board. So
Hmm.
yeah.
But in terms of like business revenue, do you think it can be kind of dangerous being extremely selective with the people that you work with instead of like having people that want to work with you, but you're not feeling their vibe?
No, because I actually think that a bad customer or a customer who isn't a good fit for your
Hmm.
services can be really a bad thing for your business because the relationship, especially when you're freelancing, as opposed to just like buying a product, the
Hmm.
relationship could be strained between the two of you, or they could be expecting a lot, or they're just not a good fit and you're not able to really deliver what they want. And then as a result, they could write bad reviews about you, they could talk badly about you. And because it's a word of mouth kind of business, you really don't want that. So
Yeah.
I think that fit is really important because we're not like mass selling, like a food product or like a product. I'm selling like the relationship
Hmm.
a lot of the times.
So you think it's kind of essential, I mean, depending on what your business is, but to really establish a relationship and not just focus on people as just a number, just a client that you're making money off of, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because people really appreciate it. Like I send a thank you note to everyone that works with Visionaria and like welcome them. Like I send it, like I handwrite it, I send it in the mail. That goes a long way. People really appreciate that attention to detail.
Yeah, I think if you reach a point where it doesn't feel like a business, but more of a like a real human relation, like it's just a different vibe, and people are not being sold to. It's just a service that you're providing and an actual friendship, which is a different dynamic, I think, to a lot of compared to a lot of businesses.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that people always really appreciate how intentional I am with the relationship. I think that
Hmm.
people really appreciate not feeling like they're just a number, but feeling like they can really trust me and really rely on me. And I
Hmm.
think like that's also why Visionaria and we're able to be successful is because people do trust us. and like that's why people want to work with us, because they trust us.
Hmm. So you're definitely a people's person, and you said you know how to do SEO and website development.
So I do the website development. I don't do the SEO because my team members do the SEO.
Hmm.
One of my team members, Lily, is our SEO specialist. But yeah, I love website design. I really, really enjoy it.
So what do you kind of use to make your websites? You do it from scratch, or you use like WordPress?
So a lot of the times I don't do it from scratch. I'll do Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, WordPress, pretty much whatever the client wants to use, I'll figure it out.
But if they don't know what exactly, like, I feel, I mean, there's so many platforms that you
If they're
can use.
uncertain, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's so I feel like once you kind of choose either WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, you're stuck with it, and you have to, because learning a different platform, um, it's kind of like either using Adobe Photoshop or I mean Adobe Premiere and Final Cut Pro. Once you're using one, you're married to it. So you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
use whatever the client wants.
Yeah, but I'll tell you my order of preference. I do use whatever the client wants, but if I'm being completely candid, Squarespace is my favorite, then Wix, then Weebly, then I hate doing WordPress.
Why? I
I'll
feel like
do
there's so
it.
much functionality in WordPress.
It's like the worst for
It's not user
aesthetic.
friendly. Okay.
It's not user friendly. I don't think it's very intuitive, and I think that it's like I just don't think that it's user friendly. But like Squarespace and Wix, extremely user friendly. And they're also very easy to integrate things. So like integrating like Stripe or PayPal or
Mm.
like a commerce store is so simple. Whereas in WordPress, my experience
Oh
at least
yeah.
has been that it's just way more challenging.
Yeah, I think for WordPress, they have WooCommerce, which is just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
plugin. It's better to literally make your own Shopify, like an independent store, rather than having the
yeah.
WooCommerce, because Shopify is so user friendly. But you're right, WordPress is not user friendly at all. But I use this theme, at least for my website, called Elegant Themes,
Do you
and
like it?
it's good because that's very user friendly, at least the theme
That's
itself.
awesome. Yeah,
But
yeah.
everything else in the WordPress backend is could it be complex, and I don't know everything about it. Um, but I just like how I'm pretty sure you can do this with Wix and Squarespace, but there's a lot of plugins that you can use to help build your SEO and, you know, make your website better.
Totally, totally. Yeah, it's interesting how different all of the different sites are. Like you're right. It's not like, I guess, Premiere versus Final Cut or whatnot. Like it's very different, going back to the example that you used earlier.
Hmm. Because it's kind of weird. Like, yeah, you may have a point. Say Wix is 10 times better than WordPress, but since I've been using WordPress for such a long time and I'm so used to it, it's going to be virtually impossible for me to make that transition. That's
Exactly.
the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Do you like building websites?
I built like three. It is fun because going back with social media, the only thing you can really do is input or make a theme. So for example, on Instagram, you can kind of have a purple theme or blue theme uh, of your page, but with your website, you can literally do whatever you want. It's more customizable, and that's what I like about making websites. But another cool thing is that there's this site. I mean, I don't know if I have too much traffic. I need to like learn the ropes on
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
yeah. Totally.
every once in a while I think it's called like Amazon something or Alexa ranking, where you can
Hmm.
check like how many monthly visitors a website has,
Oh,
and
cool. So kind of like Google Analytics or something.
something along those lines. I think if you have your host provider, it should give you that information as well. But SEO is definitely something that I need to work on personally. I mean, I do have the plugin. I forgot what it's called. But basically, when you write an article and it has all these red and green indications saying like, okay, if you don't have
Is
enough
it
of these keywords,
Yoast?
Yoast, SEO, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I think almost every WordPress sort of person uses that. Maybe even Squarespace. I don't know if that's a
Not
universal thing.
Squarespace, but totally WordPress. I've seen that a ton of times on
Yeah.
WordPress. Yeah, yeah.
But even then, I think there's another version, like a premium version that you have to unlock, and with that you
Hmm.
can, it's like SEO on steroids. But I only know a little bit of it. But to answer your question, I do like customizing websites, and it's kind of like art
It
in a way.
is. It's really creative. I really enjoy it because it has like the copywriting part, which is very creative. And then there's also like the design elements, which are also really creative. So
Hmm.
I love website design. I think it's super interesting.
So when you make your websites for your clients, do you kind of like, does he or she have a lot of input, or what? How does it go? Like, what's the?
It so depends on the actual client. So if they want to be really hands-on, they totally can be. But if they want to be more hands-off, I'm happy to just kind of get in there, take full creative brain.
Okay. But you think like the most important part of making your website is whatever the call to action is. So for example, if they have a client services, you make sure that there's a way that a potential client can, put in their information and they get a
Yeah.
potential lead on that, right? That's the most
I
important
think
part?
that purpose is the most important part because,
Okay.
like, similar to call to action, because the biggest mistake that I see on a lot of websites is that they won't have really clear purpose, and the whole page will just have like different kind of chaotic information spread throughout, and then multiple call to actions. And that can
Hmm.
be really confusing because it's like, okay, well, what is this actually about? What's the purpose of this page? What's actually going on? So I think that like purpose is the thing that helps most websites.
Hmm.
And that's probably the most important part of a website.
So is it fair to say that guys are totally responsible of all the content that you guys create, like say for social media and the blog posts?
So we totally can be. Yeah. Yeah. Again, like it so depends on whatever a client actually wants. But yeah, we can absolutely be in charge of all the social media content and all of the blog content as well.
Because I was gonna say the more the better, obviously. But if you have like 10 different clients, then that's gonna be, again, going back to managing just two different social media sites. Just imagining, even with the team, it can be very difficult to manage everyone's blog, everyone's SEO, and social media at the same time.
Yeah, and that's also why I really focus on building the team and working with my team and kind of outsource the rest of them because you're right, it would just be way too much to manage if I was trying to do it all.
Hmm. Wait, so can you give us some insight on how or what's best for, a small business owner or any entrepreneur to forming a team? Like when should that make that next hire, or when is it the right time to make a hire or outsource something?
Yeah, I love this question because I think that it's when there is a really clear reason to hire. I
Hmm.
think that like whenever you hire someone, there needs to be a really clear purpose for the role that you're hiring. So, if you're feeling like overwhelmed by the graphic design work, okay, great. It's time to hire someone to do your graphic design or your social media. But if you can handle it and you're at fine capacity, I wouldn't usually recommend hiring someone else.
Okay. And so you said you both outsource your some jobs and then you have an actual physical team. Now, was that done on purpose because you're a people's person, you want to develop a relationship, create an actual business, um, and then again, outsourcing, you save, I think, a lot of time and money if you're hiring someone from somewhere halfway across the world through Fiverr and Upwork. How was like that balance?
Yeah. So I think so I outsource, but I outsource just to my team.
Okay.
So
Oh, just for
I
them.
own Exactly. So I don't work with like Upwork or Fiverr. I just work with my team. And
Hmm.
yeah, there's like 5 team members that I have. And you're right. It's because I really do want those like in-person relationships. Also, like paying people highly and well is really important to me. And so it's been nice because with Visionaria, everybody has a living wage, which feels really good to me. So yeah, I do love those in-person relationships for sure.
And do you think during COVID that you have like, how is that transition like during COVID? Did you get a lot more people that you got to hang out with, or talk with, and then get more clients? Because I feel a lot of things are now digital, right? And a lot of people want to use their personal brand. For example, once COVID started, everyone hopped on TikTok because there's almost nothing
I
to do,
know.
and so everyone grew their brand there. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people realize like, hey, I got to get online right now and make something of myself, make a business, because a lot of these stores and retail shops were closed up.
Yeah. Well, what I think is so interesting is I actually started Visionaria Consulting back in February. So all I've really known is COVID for Visionaria. So I don't know where we would be if it wasn't, because by the time that I started taking my first client, it was probably the end of February, or very early March. So yeah, that's all I've known.
And what's kind of your ambition? Of course, you said like the more clients, the better. But again, you want to limit to the clients that you want to work with. But do you have like an ambition, or is it something that you kind of take one day at a time and try to make those relationships more meaningful?
I definitely take it one day at a time. Obviously, I do want to work with as many clients who are a good fit as possible, but
Mm-hmm.
I really do take it one day at a time. I don't have like super huge goals right now, other than to be able to just keep increasing our financial
Mm-hmm.
goals. You know, like I have not hit a 10K month yet, and I've come close, but I still haven't hit it. So I'd say
Mm-hmm.
like most immediately, finally hitting the 10K month would be a huge goal, is a
Mm-hmm.
huge goal.
And another aspect of your business is that you work with aspiring entrepreneurs. So people who just want to be an entrepreneur and they don't know what to do, you give them one-on-one consulting, right?
Yeah, I love that. I work with one-on-one coaching clients, and it's so much fun. I help people start their businesses, and I have the best clients that I work with. We meet like every week or every other week, depending on what they need, and it's just so much fun.
So kind of give us like some insight. Say there's an entrepreneur or an aspiring one and they want to get started, but they don't really know what to do. How do you kind of break it down? Like, so for example, do you break down what their passions are, what their interests are, and then help them build a business around that?
Yeah. So usually most people who come to me have some sort of an idea, but
Okay.
they're just really struggling with the actual like execution of it. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll be like, okay, here's my idea. I dream of doing like, selling a book
Mm-hmm.
or creating a wellness boutique or something like that, but they're not sure how to start. So then what I'll do is I'll be like, all right, first things first, like where, like, what do we have? What do we need? And then, we'll start off with like branding. Then we'll do like a marketing plan. We'll get through the legal aspects of a business, and I'll help them set up an LLC or whatever it is that they need. So we really do take it step by step.
Yeah, I think having that initial idea is important just to start out with, because it could be very overwhelming in terms of what business model you want to choose, because there's so many ways of making money throughout your business. You can do affiliate marketing, you can sell an actual product, have a service. So when they have an idea, is it like how straightforward or how detailed is it? Do you kind of have to help them like from the ground up, or do they have somewhat of a basis of what they're doing?
It's all from the ground up, but they'll have a clear idea of
Okay.
like, okay, like I want to make volunteering more accessible,
Mm-hmm.
but they might not know exactly how. So it's like people will have some sort of an inkling of an idea, but they won't know much more than that. So yeah, it's really, I'm doing a lot of like the groundwork, and really helping people build something and develop it into something more.
Mm-hmm. And are there times where you kind of, this might be sad to say, but
Yeah, yeah.
shoot down a like an idea, maybe it's too lucrative, or the market, or there's no market for it. Um, like, do you kind of have to like go through that sometimes?
Yeah, so I'll just help people pivot. I wouldn't say I've
Okay.
had to shoot down a bad idea. I also don't have like a ton of coaching clients one-on-one, and the people
Mm-hmm.
that do have all had like genuinely like good ideas, but we've definitely pivoted with each idea, because there'll be like aspects of the idea that could be stronger and really should be tweaked. So that's kind of how I'll do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way. Like, people, they might have good ideas. It doesn't have to be just about business, but instead of like, you know,
They
making them
need
upset.
feedback.
No, like instead of like making them upset, like, hey, it's not a good idea. Like you said, help them pivot, give them a better angle to understand, like, okay, this is why it doesn't work. Maybe there's no market for it. You can try this instead.
Exactly. They just need sometimes feedback to kind of help them get pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, because they say, as any entrepreneur or when you start a new business, it's most likely to fail the first year, and then they get very demoralized. But I think the most important thing is, maybe you can agree on this too, is that you gotta just be consistent with it, and then eventually, um, things will happen. If you're passionate about a certain idea, you're not going to really worry or be, too concerned with the money, at least in the short term, right? because if you're working on your passion, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like you're working on something that you love.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that passion can carry you so far. And then like at a certain point you need money for it to be
Oh
sustainable.
yeah,
But
of
like,
course.
yeah, like passion can really carry you so far. It's kind of interesting. It goes back to what you were suggesting before with what we were talking about before with like at what point do you need to make money? And it's like, well, it's like it's important. It's like cash, you can't have a business without cash flow.
Hmm.
So your bottom line kind of has to add up.
Yeah. And do you think, of course, when you sell or you pitch your services, it's not salesy, but do you feel guilty, or do you think it's better for everyone across any industry to kind of make those conversions in a non-salesy way? Because if you're too salesy, then that can push people like off.
I think that like people buy because they trust you,
Mhm.
right? And so like if you are like you have a very like salesy energy and you're kind of pitching something in a very salesy way, the people who resonate with that are going to work with you because your energies match and they trust you for what you're putting out there. Whereas like that doesn't really feel good to me. So I try to do sales in a different way that does feel really good to me and that does feel really in alignment. And I trust that the people who connect with that will come to me.
Hmm. Because I haven't sold anything through a brand, so I can't really speak much on that.
Yeah.
But what I could say, I think, is definitely having this experience of people having a page on Instagram, and literally all their posts are them trying to sell you something and not really showing what their product benefits are,
Yeah.
or providing like value. It's more like,
Value.
yeah, it's all about value in some shape or form.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I see so many people too that are also trying to sell and it's like that isn't really effective. You have to provide the value first and foremost. Especially I think free value goes such a long way and then you can upsell to higher value.
Hmm. Now I kind of want to like switch this convo a little bit. So going back to what you're doing in the beginning, you're big in public speaking. How did you get into a TEDx talk?
Yes, that's such a good question. So, when I was in high school, one of my mentors said that there was a technology fair going on at Burlington High School, and everybody was going to be like kind of talking about how technology helped them. So I was like, my mentor was like, you should really do this. And I was like, all right. Like, so I like threw together like a poster board and was like, here's how technology has helped me do move. I was like, we use Google Forms, we do this, we do that, like whatever. And actually at that event, there was a woman who was an educator at the school, and she, it turned out, was hosting a TEDx event in like 2 months from now at the school. And so she asked me if I would participate. And so that was how I got the TEDx.
Damn.
It was all just a connection. And that's like usually how it goes. Like it's either a connection or there's a ton of applications online that people can apply to.
So you're extremely comfortable with public speaking, right?
Totally. I grew up doing theater, so public speaking is very comfortable for me and very fun. I mean, I get nervous sometimes, but more often than not, I'm pretty comfortable.
I think I got a lot more comfortable public speaking my sophomore year of college because
Oh, yeah?
no, yeah, my sophomore year of college, I really bombed this one presentation because I did not prepare at all. And some people have a talent of, just talking, right? And they don't have to know the information like that, but they know how to rant, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I don't prepare myself, then I don't know what to say. So ever since that day, I was like, okay, I'm literally gonna write everything down, kind of not memorize it, but retain the information and ask myself questions that they'll potentially ask me. Be as prepared as possible. Write everything down because when I write everything down, it's just like registered in my mind, right, forever.
Yeah. Being
And
prepared is so important for public speaking
mhm,
confidence.
yeah, I think maybe all the public speakers have to prepare in some sort of way. Unless you're a stand-up comedic person.
And even then, you're preparing beforehand, and then like testing it out at like smaller clubs before you do like a Netflix special. So, yeah, I think that practicing so often and having so many opportunities to public speak from a young age, thanks to
Hmm.
theater and starting Move so young, has been really, really helpful.
Hmm. Have you done any like say Zoom events? Like
Yes,
public,
I
like,
have.
yeah.
I did like 3 of them like 2 weeks ago. It was really fun. I spoke at a couple of different entrepreneurship clubs at Northeastern and UMass Amherst, and it was awesome. I hope I could do more. I love like speaking, and so it's fun to get to speak in any capacity, even if it's not in person, it's just on Zoom.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been through a lot of like online, like virtual conferences, right? That you have to
Yes.
public speak for. I think that's really cool because like that can definitely help your personal brand out too. You know, you can kind of use those segments and uh, no matter say a 20-minute, 30-minute presentation, you can cut those and make small clips and then post that on your social media if you haven't done so already. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're really good at that. I see you posting clips of the
Oh yeah.
podcast.
I mean, I try
Yeah.
my best because like I said, I mean, I've been using Adobe Premiere for maybe not even a year, and
Yeah, yeah.
there's so many things that I learn from like other people as well. I'm not a graphic designer or a content creator by trade, but you kind of just learn the ropes as you continue just doing it. You know.
Totally, totally. Yeah, it looks good. I think you've like good, consistent branding, which is always really important when it comes to branding and
Oh yeah,
marketing.
they say that it takes like 4 or 5 years to actually build a brand, and I think
No
that's
way.
like that's what I like about branding because you know you don't have to. At least a lot of e-commerce people or drop shippers, they rely on a lot of like Google ads or Facebook ads to make those conversions, and they don't get a lot of indirect sales. You know, they rely on those ads.
Exactly.
However, if you just think of a big brand like Nike, you know, they don't have to run those
Yeah.
ads. People just buy it because they love the brand so much and it's been established for years and years. So
Yeah,
that's something
yeah.
that I personally want to work up towards and, you know, just establish a really household brand on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever read Shoe Dog?
Shoe Dog?
Um, yeah,
Is
by
it
the
an actual?
founder of Nike.
Oh, wait, no, no. I only seen the cover, but I really want to read. I like reading like autobiographies and stuff
It's
like that.
amazing. I have it like right over there. It's like one of the best books I've ever read. I would really, really recommend it.
Because I watched a really like short YouTube video on how it started. I
Yeah, you should
think
totally read the
it
book.
was yeah, I should, right? I think it started like as a track shoe and then eventually went to basketball, right?
Yeah, it was really interesting. You should like definitely check it out. It was also just, yeah, it was just an awesome book. I'd really, really recommend it.
Do you have any other books that you like? Like any favorites?
Let's see. Yes, I have a book called When Things Fall Apart that I really, really love. It's like Buddhist and it was pretty life-changing. I'm like looking at my bookshelf. Half the Sky is really good. It's about women's conditions around the world and it tackles oppression in a really uh, detailed way, in my opinion. And so I really like that one. And then The Artist Way is like a creative book that's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a workbook. And that is really, really interesting as well. So those would be my book recommendations.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes in case anyone's interested. Um,
Thanks.
do you have like a schedule in terms of like, hey, I'm gonna listen to this many podcasts a week, read this many books, or what? Do you kind of just learn by doing things?
Yeah, I definitely don't have a schedule that I stick to, but I wish that I did because that would be a really good thing to do. Like very good, but I totally don't. I try to read a book a month,
Mm-hmm.
which is not ambitious, but it's realistic. And I actually do like almost all the time, read at least a book a
Mm-hmm.
month.
As cheesy as it sounds, you know, a book can really like change your perspective on things. And
Completely.
I think reading a book is maybe the only thing that can, at least in my opinion, that can really shift your focus or your perspective dramatically. Because yeah, I mean, you can listen to a podcast, but the thing is that the podcast, the information comes at you so fast, and sometimes you don't retain everything, right? But with the book, you have to read it line by line, and it just kind of gets engraved in your mind, and it's such a long process, and you become, I guess, you kind of develop a relationship with the book, if that makes sense, and I don't
Yeah.
know, it becomes a lot more meaningful. So when I read some books, for example, like it really changes my perspective, and I think it's still an important aspect for anyone out there.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I love reading. It definitely can't be replaced by podcasts or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I still listen to tons of podcasts. That's like for my
Same here.
commute, like it just
It's a good
so
addition. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was never a fan of like audiobooks, but I would listen to like to podcasts like the Wall Street Journal, like on tech or Gary Vee or
Yeah, yeah.
how I built this. Like, there's so many good ones out there that um, they can definitely learn if you're into like entrepreneurship and whatnot.
Totally agree. Totally
Hmm.
agree.
Like
Yeah.
one quick question: do you think like it's harder for like female teens or women to create their own businesses compared to like guys? Like, what do you think is kind of stopping them from doing it? Because when I look for entrepreneurs on social media, I definitely see a lot more of a male presence.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's challenges. I think that there's, like, first of all, a confidence gap. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
starting a business, you definitely have to have the confidence to put yourself out there. I think also in terms of like funding, men are just funded more frequently. And especially when it comes to women or women of color, there's really disproportionate rates when it does come to VC funding. So I think that it definitely can be, and frequently is more challenging for women than men,
Mm-hmm.
especially so young. I was really lucky and definitely pretty privileged that I had the support of my community, and I had teachers who were really supportive and who were really insistent on kind of getting Move off the ground. And without their confidence, I don't know if I would have been able to do it, but they were so helpful.
Yeah, I think it's really a confidence game. In terms of like getting money, uh, and that's like next level stuff. Maybe raising a couple thousand, 10,000, $100,000 for an actual company. But I think nowadays with the access of the internet, you can create your own website for as little as $10, your own e-commerce shop,
Exactly.
and start whatever you want. But yeah, you need to be confident in what you want to do, put yourself out there, or if not, make moves. Because now it's like so seamless, it's so streamlined to make a business around your passion, your interest, and at little to no cost nowadays, you
Yeah,
know?
it's amazing. It's really like extraordinary how accessible in some ways it is to create a business. Not always, but um, the ease of the internet is very helpful.
And that's why there's so many entrepreneurs, because you can literally start a business in 1 hour.
Just from, yeah, from your bedroom, you know?
hmm So I think everyone has the capability of becoming an entrepreneur. It's just different being, an entrepreneur and a successful one, because I think you need to, learn a lot, go through some struggles, and realize
Hmm.
like if you're not lucky, like you're not gonna make a lot of money or get traction in the beginning. Kind of like
Hmm.
with your initial company Move, and had a couple people in your workshop, and it has expanded from there.
Yeah, I was able to grow it for sure. I definitely
hmm
agree with you. It takes a while to really build something, especially when it comes to building community.
And that's why I think branding is, at least in my opinion, the most important thing, because now there's so many entrepreneurs, so many businesses. The only way to stand out is to add your own unique flavor and,
Mm.
create something around that. Unless you create something
Yeah,
that's completely unique, like a new
that's a really
product or
good point.
something.
But branding is what will set you apart as unique.
hmm
Like even if you are unique, but you don't have good branding, nobody will know.
Yeah.
So
Because the thing
branding
is,
really matters.
yeah, I was gonna say like someone can have the exact same business as you, maybe even bigger, but they might like you, like instead of someone else. They might like Ashley
Exactly.
instead
It
of,
goes back to that
yeah,
trust.
yeah. They may have someone else in mind, but because that build that rapport with you and they know you, they've seen your content, they've heard good things about you, they'd rather work with you. And that's the big thing about branding. So,
Yeah.
Ashley, I don't want to take too much of your time here. So, if people, want to find you on social media, your website, your businesses, where can they find that?
You can find me at Ashley Olafsen or at Visionaria Consulting or visionariaconsulting.com. But thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to talk with you, and I really appreciate your time as well. I know you also work a long day, so thank you so seriously for your time as well and for the opportunity to be featured.
For sure. I appreciate it, Ashley. Have a good one, okay?
Thank you. You too.